Have you ever felt stuck or frustrated or like things just aren't going your way? And maybe you keep trying to hold on to the control and the things that you want to change, but they just don't seem to actually change. The good news is you have more power than you think. The bad news is you're probably focusing on the wrong things. And that's what we're talking about in this video. We're going to talk about the things we can control, the things we can't, and why you might be focusing on some of the wrong things. If we haven't met yet, my name is Isabel, and on this channel we talk all about embracing your weird in order to build a better brand, business, and life. So let's go. Today we're going to talk about something called the circle of control. And there's actually 3 parts to this circle. But let's start with the inner part, which is the actual circle of control. The things you can control 100%. Your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, your attitude, the things you do, the things you don't do, how you spend your time. These are things you can control, right? This is where the real change happens. This is where the things you want in your life can come true if you focus on this circle. But it's really hard to stay in this circle because the other circles are bigger. And there's a lot of things, calling to our attention. And staying in this circle requires discipline. It requires self-awareness. It requires not letting yourself fall into the automatic mode where maybe your subconscious takes over and so you don't take the actions you're meaning to take, or you don't control your thoughts, or you're not aware of your thoughts. And it takes a level of personal responsibility that is frankly uncomfortable. So what we do instead is we look at the circle of concern, which is the outermost ring of this entire diagram. And the circle of concern is everything we care about or that is important to us, but that we have zero control over. These are things we might waste our time on or want to control, but again, we have zero, zilch, nada, nothing. We have no control over the things in this circle. So what do I mean by that? I mean things like the weather. Yes, I would love for it to be a little less hot today, but I can't control that. Or if you're going to a store, you can't control the stock or the items that store has in stock. So you might be going to buy those shoes that you saw last week to get to the store, and they don't have them anymore. You can't control that, right? You can't control the economy. You can't control whether or not aliens exist. You can't control what famous people are doing. But we tend to worry about these things. And when I say worry, obviously, I'm not worried about whatever Meryl Streep is doing in her day-to-day, but I can spend time thinking about a lot of these things that I can't control. And most of us are already worrying too much about things in general, so why would we waste energy worrying or thinking or giving our energy to things that we have zero control over? I mean, yes, we all get stuck doom scrolling on TikTok or ranting about things like politics and the economy, but there's a lot of things that we can't change. And at the end of the day, all the time that we spend focusing on the things that are in the circle of concern is time that we don't spend in the inner circle, which is the circle of control and the circle in which we actually can do things to change our life. So we know this is useless. We know this is the main focus. And a lot of us would think, like, between worrying about things that you can control and worrying about things that you can't control, obviously this is the solution and this is what we're worried about. However, the circle that's in the middle, which is our circle of influence, is where a lot of us get stuck. The circle of influence is where things get a little bit interesting. It is the circle where we find our family, our friends, our children, our reputation, what people think of us, whether or not we get promoted, that decision a friend has to make, etc., etc., etc. This is the circle where it's our pitfall. It's where we spend a lot of the time and our energy on, and where we worry a lot. Like, we're worried about what our children are doing or what our parents are doing, or we think our family member or our best friend should really make this decision or that decision, or should make this change or that change. And we focus so much on that that we don't even realize we're doing it and that we're avoiding being in our circle of control. The thing about the circle of influence is that it sounds great. We want to influence the people in our lives to make positive changes. We want to help them become better people. But it can be a little sneaky because it's a lot easier to focus on what other people should be doing or should be changing or should be improving on than to actually make the changes we want to make for ourselves and our lives. It's easier to focus on your partner eating healthier than to focus on fixing your own eating habits. It's easier to focus on trying to change your boss's behavior to get him to like you and promote you than it is to actually improve your skills to get that promotion or earn that promotion or a better job somewhere else, right? It's easier to get frustrated that your friend won't take your advice than admit that maybe it's not your place to decide that for her. And the worst part is that we get so caught up trying to influence other people's behavior that we believe, or we start to believe, that we can actually change that. We can actually control some of that. And we can't. You can't change anybody. You can't change anyone who doesn't want to change. If you give someone a piece of advice and they follow it, it's because they already wanted to make that change. You influenced it, but they were already decided on making a change. We're never in control of those things to begin with. And that's why we need to fix getting out of that sneaky little circle and go back into our actual circle of control. Because that is where the real power lies, not in trying to convince people, not in waiting for opportunities, but in actually doing the work ourselves, fixing our thoughts, fixing our beliefs, fixing our actions, and doing the things we want to do and we need to do in order to get to where we want to be. Now, I love this quote from Epictetus, which I hope I'm saying correctly in English, and I'm going to read this to you. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. It is only after you have faced up to this fundamental rule and learned to distinguish between what you can and can't control that inner tranquility and outer effectiveness become possible. But knowing this isn't enough. The real question is, how do you actually make sure you're staying in the right circle? And I have 3 little tips for this. Number 1 is to add reminders to yourself, right? I have a sticky note up on top of my desk usually that has the circle, these 3 circles drawn so that it's a visual reminder that, hey, focus on what you can control. When you see yourself worrying about things that you can't control, stop for a second and say, hey, let it go. You can't control that. Another thing is, number 2, doing a control journaling exercise every morning. And it's a really simple exercise that will take you no longer than 30 seconds or 1 minute. And it is literally just write down one thing that you're going to focus on today that you can control, and one thing that you're worried about today that you know you can't control, and so you're choosing to let go of it. And that act of writing down those 2 things every day helps you actually let go of those things and also focus on the things that you can control. Letting go of the things you can't control, focusing on the things you can control. That is the main message of this entire video that I want you to get. And the third thing is, when you find yourself worrying or when you find yourself concerned about something, stop for a second and ask yourself, am I stressed, anxious, whatever you're feeling? Ask yourself, is this something I can control, or is this just something I care about? It's okay to care about the outcomes of different situations, but you need to make sure you know you can control it. Because if you can't control it, then it needs to be let go of. The good news is, the more we catch ourselves doing this, the easier it is to stay in our circle of control, and therefore the faster our lives can change. So tell me, what's one thing inside your circle of control that you're going to focus on this week? And if you're brave enough, let me know also what's one thing that's outside of your circle of control that you're going to let go of this week. Let me know in the comments. If you can, also like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed it. I make new videos like this every single Friday, and that really helps this channel grow. Until then, stay wild, stay weird, and I'll see you in the next one.